Every business has four types of consumers, and no matter who you are, big, small, home, solo, contractor, restaurant, whatever, you have four types of consumers. The first one is everyone, and we talk about everyone a lot, probably more than we should. We talk about everyone a lot and why selling and marketing to them doesn't make sense. And if you have some questions or you want to brush up on that, or you're not sure what I'm talking about there, you can always visit the video, the everyone video. Just search for everyone on the site and you'll find the video. The next group, and I'm going to list the next three groups because we're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about these three. But let's just define our terms first. Okay, so there's the problem child, there's the casual consumer, and then there's the super fan. And then within the superfan, you'll hear me talk a lot about Betty. So I guess technically there's five. But Betty's a whole separate concept. For what we need to do for here, we just need to know about those three consumers. Okay. Now, your ideal, perfect dream consumer is your superfan. All right. They are the people that you started your business for. They are the people who are the consumers who your business is right for. It makes sense to them. It solves a problem that they are having in a way that they like and enjoy. They are the people that you want more of those consumers. They're the consumer that it never feels like work. One of the things I used to always, when I would talk about this out in public with people, one of the things I would always say to people is, it's that consumer that when you call, you answer you see them on the caller ID, you answer the phone, and people are like, oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. You have a handful of those, and you know who those consumers are mainly because it doesn't feel like work. You enjoy working with them. It's a pleasure. It makes you feel good. It's when you finish something with them, if they purchase something or you finished a project or whatever it might be, afterwards you're like, yeah, that's exactly why I started my business. That is exactly what I wanted to do. And they give it to me every time. And that's because it was a love connection. You met up and you matched and you had things that you both liked about each other, and it just worked. All right. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about super fans down the road, but know that that's a core of that's the goal. All right. The goal is that we want to get more super fans into our life. All right. We will never have 100% super fans. That's just never going to happen. That's statistically never going to happen. But what we want to do is less problem children and more super fans. All right. We'll come back to the casual consumer because that is the crux of everything that we do. It is the core of everything that we do. It's and you kind of get the importance of it. The casual consumer is the number one thing, and that's the crown jewel that we have to go for. Your problem child is that consumer that they're a problem. It's just no other way to put it. When I was in industry, when I was running the design office, they were the consumer that, they would call you out of the blue, and they would, or they would call you like you could set your clock by it. Sometimes it was every 3 or 4 weeks. And they would want a quote or a rate on something, whatever it was. And then you would never hear from them again. And then, but it was always like, I need the quote in an hour. We're bidding in an hour, etc. And it was always lots of promises and blue skies and things. It's the consumer that always comes in, and if you own a retail store, they constantly are in there for hours. They never buy anything. If you're a financial planner, you call them up and you talk to them, but they never, they agree with you 100%. Oh yeah, I totally need, and they never pull the trigger. Those kinds of things. It's the drainers. All right. The core behavior and philosophy of the problem child is, the time they drain your time, they drain your energy. They don't purchase. If they do purchase, it is drama from point A to point B. It's problems from point A to point B. Maybe it's smooth all through that, and maybe they're an okay client. Maybe it's something like they never pay their bills, or they take 90 to 120 days to pay their bills. You know, the problems don't have to be extreme. There just have to be problems. And I'm not saying that super fans don't have problems. Everybody has problems, but with the problem child, it's more problems than good stuff. You know, like the good stuff is like this big, and the problems are like this big. All right, and that's the problem child. All right, and as soon as I mentioned those two consumers, you had in your head immediately, oh yeah, I know somebody just like that in my business. I have somebody just like that in my business. Now, the casual consumer is really where the meat and potatoes of our business is. That is the most important consumer that we have, all right? And think about it this way in your life. I hate to break it to you. I hate to be the one to tell you. I can own it, so if I can own it, you can own it. There have been times where I have been a problem child for somebody. I am sure of it. I don't think so in my head, but I know that I'm sure I have been. I've no doubt. We all have at least one time in our life been a problem child consumer. All right, and if we can all own that, well, that's a good thing. Conversely, there are a handful of businesses that I would say that I am a loyal consumer to. All right, and by that I mean, we'll use a great example. We're coming off the edge of a global pandemic, first time in 100 years, and I tried to, during the pandemic, spend money where I could with small businesses to try and spread the love, but I spent the bulk of my money. The businesses that I worked really hard to, like, okay, we're going to really make an effort to spend money here and as much money as I can, were the businesses that I were super fans of, all right? Because they connected with me. I felt a connection with them, an affinity for them. I appreciated that they were being loyal to me, and so I wanted to return the loyalty, all right? And so there's one or two, maybe a handful of businesses in your life that you are a super fan of. Almost all of your business, all of your consumer shopping, all of your purchasing typically is within the casual consumer area. And the casual consumer is that person that buys occasionally. They buy one or two things, but you know that they could be buying more, right? You know that they, just from talking to them and things. They will come in and they will purchase something, and you won't see them again for maybe 3, 4, 6 months, something like that. That's the casual consumer. Now, much like everybody, it is a spectrum, and there are habits, and the casual consumer can have one or two habits that could be problem childish, and they also tend to have a lot of habits that could be super fanish. And so where they fall in that spectrum is how we can convert them. So if the casual consumer has a lot of behaviors and traits and things that appeal to them that the super fan does, it stands to reason that the casual consumer would have a lot of that if we could engage with that, if we could convince them better, they would become a super fan. They would become a much more loyal consumer. Now, what happens in there is the casual consumer is waiting to hear something from your marketing, from your sales, from talking to you that will really connect with them and make them, it'd be that light bulb moment where, like, okay, now I'm a super fan. I get it. I get what you're doing. Now, that's where the detective work comes in. That's where all the marketing and sales work comes in. That's where the rubber meets the road. Figuring out what those are, what those behaviors are, what are the things that they haven't heard that they want to hear, and getting them to hear that, saying it in a way that they can hear it, to give them that aha moment of, Oh, right. Yeah, this is like, I haven't been coming here a lot, but that, I need to up my game because this is really, All right, so I will see you in the next video. As always, if there's any questions, leave them below. I'll get back to you immediately.